MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12. Number Analysis. Advertisers often displayed considerable facility in adapting their claims to the market status of the goods they promoted. Fleischmann's yeast, for instance, was used as an ingredient for cooking homemade bread. Fleischmann. Yet more and more people in the early 20th century were buying their bread from stores or bakeries, so consumer demand for yeast decreased. 20. The producer of Fleischmann's yeast hired the J. Walter Thompson advertising agency to come up with a different marketing strategy to boost sales. Fleischmann J. Walter Thompson. No longer the soul of bread, the Thompson agency first turned yeast into an important source of vitamins with significant health benefits. Thompson soul of bread. Shortly thereafter, the advertising agency transformed yeast into a natural laxative. Repositioning yeast helped increase sales. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12. Number 01. While moving is difficult for everyone, it is particularly stressful for children. They lose their sense of security and may feel disoriented when their routine is disrupted and all that is familiar is taken away. Young children, ages 3 to 6, are particularly affected by a move. 3-6. Their understanding at this stage is quite literal, and it is difficult for them to imagine beforehand a new home and their new room. Young children may have worries such as, will I still be me in the new place? And will my toys and bed come with us? It is important to establish a balance between validating children's past experiences and focusing on helping them adjust to the new place. Children need to have opportunities to share their backgrounds in a way that respects their past as an important part of who they are. This contributes to building a sense of community, which is essential for all children, especially those in transition. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12. Number 02. The major philosophical shift in the idea of selling came when industrial societies became more affluent, more competitive, and more geographically spread out during the 1940s and 1950s. 1940-1950. This forced business to develop closer relations with buyers and clients, which in turn made business realize that it was not enough to produce a quality product at a reasonable price. In fact, it was equally essential to deliver products that customers actually wanted. Henry Ford produced his best-selling T-model Ford in one color only, black, in 1908, but in modern societies this was no longer possible. 1908 Henry Ford T. Ford. The modernization of society led to a marketing revolution that destroyed the view that production would create its own demand. Customers, and the desire to meet their diverse and often complex needs, became the focus of business. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12. Number 03. Plant growth is controlled by a group of hormones called auxins found at the tips of stems and roots of plants. Auxins produced at the tips of stems tend to accumulate on the side of the stem that is in the shade. Accordingly, the auxins stimulate growth on the shaded side of the plant. Therefore, the shaded side grows faster than the side facing the sunlight. This phenomenon causes the stem to bend and appear to be growing towards the light. Auxins have the opposite effect on the roots of plants. Auxins in the tips of roots tend to limit growth. If a root is horizontal in the soil, the auxins will accumulate on the lower side and interfere with its development. Therefore, the lower side of the root will grow slower than the upper side. This will, in turn, cause the root to bend downwards, with the tip of the root growing in that direction. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12. Number 04. Do you sometimes feel like you don't love your life? Like, deep inside, something is missing? That's because we are living someone else's life. We allow other people to influence our choices. We are trying to meet their expectations. Social pressure is deceiving. We are all impacted without noticing it. Before we realize we are losing ownership of our lives, we end up envying how other people live. Then, we can only see the greener grass. Ours is never good enough. To regain that passion for the life you want, you must recover control of your choices. No one but yourself can choose how you live. But, how? The first step to getting rid of expectations is to treat yourself kindly. You can't truly love other people if you don't love yourself first. When we accept who we are, there's no room for others' expectations. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12, Number 05. Rejection is an everyday part of our lives, yet most people can't handle it well. For many, it's so painful that they'd rather not ask for something at all than ask and risk rejection. Yet, as the old saying goes, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. Avoiding rejection negatively affects many aspects of your life. All of that happens only because you're not tough enough to handle it. For this reason, consider rejection therapy. Come up with a request or an activity that usually results in a rejection. Working in sales is one such example. Asking for discounts at the stores will also work. By deliberately getting yourself rejected, you'll grow a thicker skin that will allow you to take on much more in life, thus making you more successful at dealing with unfavorable circumstances. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12, Number 06. For species approaching extinction, zoos can act as a last chance for survival. Recovery programs are established to coordinate the efforts of field conservationists and wildlife authorities. As populations of those species diminish, it is not unusual for zoos to start captive breeding programs. Captive breeding acts to protect against extinction. In some cases, captive bred individuals may be released back into the wild, supplementing wild populations. This is most successful in situations where individuals are at greatest threat during a particular life stage. For example, turtle eggs may be removed from high-risk locations until after they hatch. This may increase the number of turtles that survive to adulthood. Crocodile programs have also been successful in protecting eggs and hatchlings, releasing hatchlings once they are better equipped to protect themselves. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12, Number 07. Hunting can explain how humans developed reciprocal altruism and social exchange. Humans seem to be unique among primates in showing extensive reciprocal relationships that can last years, decades, or a lifetime. Meat from a large game animal comes in quantities that exceed what a single hunter and his immediate family could possibly consume. Furthermore, hunting success is highly variable. A hunter who is successful one week might fail the next. These conditions encourage food sharing from hunting. The costs to a hunter of giving away meat he cannot eat immediately are low because he cannot consume all the meat himself and leftovers will soon spoil. The benefits can be large, however, when those who are given his food return the generous favor later on when he has failed to get food for himself. In essence, hunters can store extra meat in the bodies of their friends and neighbors. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12, Number 08. Detailed study over the past 2 or 3 decades is showing that the complex forms of natural systems are essential to their functioning. 2030. The attempt to straighten rivers and give them regular cross-sections is perhaps the most disastrous example of this form and function relationship. The natural river has a very irregular form. It curves a lot, spills across floodplains, and leaks into wetlands, giving it an ever-changing and incredibly complex shoreline. This allows the river to accommodate variations in water level and speed. Pushing the river into tidy geometry destroys functional capacity and results in disasters like the Mississippi floods of 1927 and 1993 and, more recently, the unnatural disaster of Hurricane Katrina. 1927-1993 Mississippi, Katrina. A $50 billion plan to let the river loose in Louisiana recognizes that the controlled Mississippi is washing away 24 square miles of that state annually. Louisiana. Let the river loose, 500 Mississippi 24. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12 Number 09. When the price of something fundamental drops greatly, the whole world can change. Consider light. Chances are you are reading this sentence under some kind of artificial light. Moreover, you probably never thought about whether using artificial light for reading was worth it. Light is so cheap that you use it without thinking. But in the early 1800s, it would have cost you 400 times what you are paying now for the same amount of light. 1800-400. At that price, you would notice the cost and would think twice before using artificial light to read a book. The drop in the price of light lit up the world. Not only did it turn night into day, but it allowed us to live and work in big buildings that natural light could not enter. Nearly nothing we have today would be possible if the cost of artificial light had not dropped to almost nothing. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12 Number 10. Recent research suggests that evolving humans' relationship with dogs changed the structure of both species' brains. One of the various physical changes caused by domestication is a reduction in the size of the brain, 16% for horses, 34% for pigs, and 10 to 30% for dogs. 16%, 34%, 30%. This is because once humans started to take care of these animals, they no longer needed various brain functions in order to survive. Animals who were fed and protected by humans did not need many of the skills required by their wild ancestors and lost the parts of the brain related to those capacities. A similar process occurred for humans, who seem to have been domesticated by wolves. About 10,000 years ago, when the role of dogs was firmly established in most human societies, the human brain also shrank by about 10%. 10%. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12 Number 11. Social connections are so essential for our survival and well-being that we not only cooperate with others to build relationships, we also compete with others for friends. And often we do both at the same time. Take gossip. Through gossip, we bond with our friends, sharing interesting details. But at the same time, we are creating potential enemies in the targets of our gossip. Or consider rival holiday parties where people compete to see who will attend their party. We can even see this tension in social media as people compete for the most friends and followers. At the same time, competitive exclusion can also generate cooperation. High school social clubs and country clubs use this formula to great effect. It is through selective inclusion and exclusion that they produce loyalty and lasting social bonds. MTC. Good job. MTC. Let's start. 241, Chapter 12 Number 12. We often ignore small changes because they don't seem to matter very much in the moment. If you save a little money now, you're still not a millionaire. If you study Spanish for an hour tonight, you still haven't learned the language. We make a few changes, but the results never seem to come quickly, and so we slide back into our previous routines. The slow pace of transformation also makes it difficult to break a bad habit. If you eat an unhealthy meal today, the scale doesn't move much. A single decision is easy to ignore. But when we repeat small errors, day after day, by following poor decisions again and again, our small choices add up to bad results. Many missteps eventually lead to a problem. MTC. Good job.